Hey everybody, welcome back to the OVRWATCH channel on YouTube. If you're researching the paranormal or near-death experiences or anything that violates reductive materialism, you need to understand that Wikipedia is the last place you should look. If you haven't realized already, as you're doing your research, you'll see that Wikipedia is geared toward pseudo-skepticism when it comes to this stuff. And this website right here I'm showing you on the screen is has several articles that can show you exactly how that's done and why it's being done. There's also another website called Wikipediocracy, which also talks about this stuff and how Wikipedia is essentially a corrupted source of information if you're researching anything that violates reductive materialism. And that's really what the job of the pseudo-skeptic is, and what atheists are really all about. They're all apologists for a model of reality that has been broken, and probably has been broken for about 100 years now. There is one place, one page on Wikipedia which they seem to have missed, or if you see it change from what I'm showing you here, you'll know why, because I'm exposing it, or maybe other people will too. It's a near-death experience. Now, when you're studying, the reason to study all these NDEs, of course, is to figure out, it's a really good way to try to figure out reality. When you think about it, you have living witnesses that have died temporarily, have their consciousness have separated from their body, and they can report, what's going on. In no other place in time and history have we had so many, because medical science, I've always been critical of reductive materialism, but from everything that's bad, there's a saying that some good comes out of it. And the irony here is that reductive materialism has resulted in advanced medical technology. It's not all bad. It simply allows us to manipulate materialistic world better. That's why you have great cars and all these high-tech toys and medical science that has been able to revive people from a death state longer into the death state than any other time in human history. This is amazing, and ironically, it's one of the reasons that reductive materialism, it's not the only reason, but one of the reasons that it has been broken. It's a broken model. And you have so many living people alive today because of medical science that can report, hey, you know what, when I was dead, I came out of my body, I saw this, I saw that. Many things, if they see them in the surrounding where their body was, their surrounding environment there, or maybe they traveled somewhere nearby and witnessed something that could not have been known to them. So it's called a veridical perception. So here you have a case of Anita Morjani. She was a Hindu. She grew up in Hong Kong. She's a British national of Indian descent, and she has a cancer. I'm reading her book, Dying to Be Me. I'm almost finished with it. I made a video about her this actually earlier, but I decided to delete it and do it again because I wanted to get more and more into the book and see, get more details. And it's so excited about what I'm finding here in this particular case, because even the pseudo-skeptics on Wikipedia really have a kind of a hands-off approach to this particular case. And she is actually being attacked from one other source, which is religious. And this is really my whole channel is about, is looking at everything and realizing that all religions are wrong, and atheism and reductive materialism and scientists are wrong about reality. Okay, now the science end of it is hard to sort out. It's hard to pick out. You have to really read their articles in depth, and they're somehow really boring at times. But the things that science will admit they don't know, yet they talk with an arrogance like they do know, is amazing. And atheists also, they'll even deny being apologists for reductive materialism. They'll even deny being materialists. But everything they argue from, and all their points of view, and everything they defend is that model of reality. I mean, I don't know how, it's like insane to say you're not something when you argue completely from that point of view. So the only criticism about, a little background first. So this woman, Anina Morjani, and she's on YouTube. She has a lot of videos. She's done TED Talks. She's got a book out, her own website, which I'll link to. Everything you see on the screen, of course, as usual, I'll link to it. But she comes down with cancer around 2002, and it's a Hodgkin's lymphoma, and it progresses until like 2005, where she is on her deathbed, basically, with open sores, and this is all medically documented. This is a really big problem for the reductive materialist, because you see, there's no way around what happened to her biologically, scientifically, which is beyond what reductive materialism allows for. There's really no way to explain this case that way. And that's why the criticism of her case is kind of really short and really doesn't make any sense. Basically they try to blow off her near NDE. So there are many skeptics that denounce Anita's near-death experience and criticize the message that she speaks. And then it goes on to saying that, cancer can't be cured by positive thinking, and, it's like dangerous to do so. But then at the end of the criticism, it says, however, Morjani herself says in her book that it is not as simplistic as positive thinking and cannot be reduced to mind control. So here's what happened. Her cancer was killing her. She's on her deathbed. She's in the hospital. She has complete medical documentation that verifies all this stuff. It's been reviewed by countless other doctors and oncologists, and there's no denying the state of her condition. She slips into a coma, and I guess her brain allows her. There are certain conditions. I'm not sure exactly what triggers it at what point, but her consciousness leaves her body. Now you have veridical perception going on. She's able to later, even though she came into the hospital with her eyes swollen shut and she was in a coma, as soon as she woke up, she recognized the doctor who had been treating her, and she was able to talk about conversations that happened in other rooms as her consciousness, as her true being, whatever we actually are as we occupy our bodies. As she was maneuvering around the environment, she's able to hear conversations, which were all later verified. Then she goes into this transitional state, like so many other NDErs do, where they go into a higher plane of existence. She meets her dead dad. She meets her dead friend. She talks to spiritual beings. She has an awareness that is amplified and expanse knowledge of everything. This is all common NDE stuff. 360-degree vision, all this stuff is happening to her. And she is basically given a choice. A lot of people are in these conditions. And she somehow knows, because knowledge seems to be available on demand when you're free of your body. She knows that if she goes back to her body, she can instantaneously cure herself. So, or because of her choice, her body will be cured. I'm not really clear on that, but the thing is that she does go back to her body, and within days, her cancer is in complete remission. Within weeks, they had to release her from the hospital. There is no way, if you read about her medical condition, that could happen naturally, or there's no cure for what happened. We don't have any way of doing that to people with medical technology, and there's no freaking way that just happens all by itself. But in her case, it did. Now, she has, of course, her witnessing of the other side, the afterlife, the higher plane of existence, whatever you want to call it. And it's consistent with a lot of other information that we can gather, which is hard to interpret and hard to talk about. See, everybody that comes back says it's hard to put into words. So she does her best. And you get that, of course, if you really look at what people in the near-death experiences are saying, they have a sense of oneness with everything, but it's not like they describe it as like being one with everything, but at the same time they are obviously still individuals. The afterlife is very hard to understand because from our brain seems to reduce our ability to our consciousness. I mean, when you think about it, you're born with amnesia into this body. it seems like the bodies that we occupy, or that anything that's alive that is conscious, and it seems like our bodies are like our avatars, our placeholders for our consciousness, and our consciousness is reduced by our bodies and by our physical brains for whatever reason. I'm not saying I have an answer for that exactly. I just know that religious people, their answers don't fit the evidence. So the religious doctrines and dogmas don't fit the evidence. The atheist and reductive materialist information we get from those people do not fit the evidence. And the evidence is also hard to understand because it's think of it this way. An analogy I once heard somebody say: imagine a cat or a dog becoming a human for a day, then going back to being a cat or dog, or maybe a chimpanzee becoming human and then going back to being a chimpanzee. At that point, how does the chimpanzee describe their experience to another chimpanzee, or to a dog to another dog? It's virtually impossible. And these people are trying their best with language and words to describe things that really is hard for them because they've been handicapped again. They've been returned to their physical body. So they have very little criticism of her on Wikipedia. This is amazing. It's like the only case on here that you can find that they kind of left alone. I kind of wish they feel like this case hadn't happened because it's too hard to explain. You just can't explain her end-stage lymphoma going away in a matter of days. It's miraculous. But beyond that, she has information from the afterlife, and you have to take her. She has no reason to lie. It violates the information she brings back doesn't fit her Hindu religion. It doesn't fit Christianity. And ironically, the biggest source of attack for her NDE case comes from this guy, Robert Allen King, who is a minister, Christian apologist, and he has a website called BibleCommentator.com. And in his book, he wrote a book, Christian Rebuttal. And because her experience doesn't fit the dogma, doctrines, or interpretations of Christianity, because they take the entire Bible, it has to be cover to cover, literal, end to end, and they have to try to see. It's hard to describe, but you're really surrounded at all sides by people that are in the information age, are also in the age of ignorance. People do not want to look at facts and evidence and then adjust their beliefs accordingly. They would rather take their beliefs and make them fit the facts and evidence. That's why you have confirmation biases and all this other stuff. And it's so hard for me on my channel here to talk about this stuff and try to reach out to people, because I know 90% of you, if you're watching my video, might be a person that already has a strong belief about something. You're not going to hear anything I'm saying anyway. You're just going to either get ready to troll the comment section or whatever. But here you have a case of a guy who has to rebut this because her experience violates his beliefs in a book. And the fact is that a lot of these NDE cases are counterintuitive. They don't always. It's hard to understand. Okay, think about that old story, Flatland. If you go back a couple videos, I made a video about Flatland. A two-dimensional being trying to understand three-dimensional space. It's virtually impossible. And at the same time, here we have our confined consciousness in our avatar, then released, and you are what you really are, and then you go on to some other place, and it's hard for anyone to understand what the heck is really going on. So the thing is that this case, you have to the back to the oneness. She describes this ability to become one with anything, and you hear that a lot from people. But I think, from what I'm looking at, the way I pay attention to how people are saying these stuff, and I've looked at so many cases, that it seems to me that the logical conclusion is that your consciousness, once free of your body, is very powerful. We are all powerful beings that have capacity to sense and know things far beyond what we think we're capable of in our bodies. And once free of that, when you want to seek out information or know about something, you literally feel like you become that other thing. So you know so much about it that you literally feel like you become it. But all these people are always describing things from an individual viewpoint. From their, even Eben Alexander's case, he's an atheist neurosurgeon who had a profound NDE, and at the time he had it, he also had amnesia, so he didn't even know who he was. Still describing everything from his viewpoint, from his existence, from his personal individual thing, although there seems to be a complete loss of ego in that state, and the ego is something that our biological avatars need for some reason. It's very hard to explain all this stuff, but if you're researching it all, Wikipedia, bad source, it's been corrupted by pseudo-skeptics. Pseudo-skeptics and religiotards are the two biggest obstacles you'll have to getting to anywhere, any kind of truth, because frankly, most people are not interested in truth. They're interested in believing what they want to believe. Now, in her case, some of her interpretations, sending serial killers, and see, this is actually consistent. The amazing part about it is there are things in the NDE experience consistent with Jesus quotes, but they are not consistent with everything he said, and they are not consistent with the Bible as a whole. So love one another as you love yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. These are powerful philosophical statements that seems to be completely true in light of all the information we have about the afterlife. Hell is a state where you essentially punish yourself for hurting other people, and since you have that oneness, that experience of oneness, it seems like you become the person you hurt. So you get to experience that. So, and at the same time, the Bible, New Testament, Jesus does instruct people to love your enemies. So you see, she says some things in here that are counterintuitive to human existence, yet a lot of things are counterintuitive here. And it's amazing that if you look at some of this stuff, it does jive with, it doesn't have to be a Christian Bible. It can be, some Buddhist beliefs, and but it seems that as a whole, any one religion has a whole bunch of stuff wrong with it and a couple of right things. And people try to latch on to these beliefs because they're connected, but they don't know how they're connected. And they do try to, for the most part, most people are trying to find the truth, even though they've accepted some form of belief that lets them wallow in ignorance without even knowing it. So I'm going to link to all this stuff. I'm also going to link to her book. I'll have it as the first link below if you buy it. I'm going to become an Amazon affiliate to try to support my channel and to just get maybe a little extra money for a trip I have planned to Orlando, because the International Association of Near-Death Studies is having a conference there in July. And I have an opportunity to possibly go there and interview people in person. If I do that, it will be really exciting for me, because I'll be able to ask questions of people that I have not seen asked anywhere. I have a whole list of questions I would love to have answered, and maybe get some interviews for my channel. So I'll put that link first, and working on a website, which I hope to have up and running with some real content on it soon, but I've been kind of busy. And all right then. So I'll check you guys out later, and thanks for watching. See you, bye.